Hello there, Internet's version 2 here with Let's Read Danganronpa 0. Today is the final chapter before the super long actual final chapter. So, big build-ups in this one, I'm gonna guess. Also, I'm going to assume Matsuda because what the fuck's happening with Matsuda? He just killed the dude, so what the hell's happening? The man walked to the girl's room quietly. We're focusing on Matsuda. It was clear the girl had not bothered to take the key from her door earlier. Despite this, there was no one inside the room. He swiftly opened the door, letting a rush of air into the room. Inside the room, there was a poster on the wall which flapped noisily. Why did she have to be out now? He had told her to stay put, even when she had nothing to do. Without realizing it, he felt like shouting obscenities at her. That being said, the man had fully realized that there would have been no sense to be drawn from his words if he had done so. No matter what he said to her, the girl would just forget everything. My mouth feels weird. Perfect thing to do when you're about to read for a while. Letting out a large sigh, Matsuda Yasuke dropped his line of sight to where his hands were. His hands remained scrunched into tight fists. No matter how many times he tried to relax them, it was impossible. He had lost feeling in them long before. He could still feel Murasama Soshun's neck squeezed between his hands. Yeah. Killing does that. Murasama Soshun saw red eyes flash through his mind suddenly. He squeezed his fist more. It was like his hands were still wrapped around the boy's neck, suffocating him of hair. Why did she have to be out now? He whispered in a much weaker tone than before he left the room. Again, they keep saying the tone after I read it, so I keep fucking it up. It's a weird thing with books. He exited the dormitory and soon Matsuda found himself heading towards the biology building in the East District. If he were her, then he would be there. There wouldn't be another place a girl who had forgotten everything would be. Unless she got wrapped up with a shitload of other people. It wasn't even the height of summer yet, but already the back of Matsuda's dirty hair was drenched in sweat. Covered in perspiration, he felt like he was as heavy as lead. It should have taken around 10 minutes to reach the biology building on a normal day, but this time it took at least twice the amount of time. Murder does that! Even so, Matsuda somehow finally reached the biology building. Looking like a broken wind-up toy, he scaled the stairs in a strange, awkward waddle, and within a few minutes he was standing in front of the neurology research facility. As he took a deep breath, he roughly opens the door. He looked into the room with hope. However, there was no one there. It was still too early to be discouraged by this, but an uncomfortable feeling stirred in him. What happened here? It had not been hidden well. There was traces of vandalism in there, on the desk, on the bed, all over the laboratory. Don't tell me. His expression changed as quickly as he quickly hurried over to the bed. Something moved under it, as if it had anticipated his actions. Who's there? As he instinctively raised his voice, he reached down and raised the bed sheet. He saw a girl under the bed. Matsuda felt his stab of anxiety ease with some relief. But within the next moment, that relief was blown away, like an explosion. Matsuda saw the bed thrown into the air. It drifted through the air, looking as though it was much lighter than what it truly was, and soon began to spin around in a dizzying motion. After it spun for an inconceivable amount of time, it finally fell to the ground, like gravity had last remembered it existed. Oh, that's a cool word. That's a cool phrase. I like that. The bed sheets still in Matsuda's hands and flipped upwards and lightly grazed against his nose and floated back down to the ground. Dialogue's getting slightly more stilted as it goes on. I'm guessing the translator was in a rush. No criticism to them. This is an unofficial translation, and so for someone to speak both languages to just unofficially do it, they've been doing a pretty fucking good job so far. So slight mistakes in grammar I can pass by. It just makes my brain do weird things while I'm reading it. A deep rumbling echoed through the room. After the rumbling had come to a stop, Matsuda heard a voice. Or more specifically, Matsuda heard a laugh. Alright, we're going to be doing this for about 20 minutes. I know that's not the type of laughter, but I can't do laughter that isn't just my laughter and make it sound natural. Even that probably didn't sound natural. On the other side of the bed stood a girl from before. Wow, talk about good reflexes. I wasn't expecting you to be there. I thought it was yet another idiotic girl. The girl from earlier had a stupid grin plastered to her face. And all the guys I've seen up to now in this place seem to smile like they're bonkers. But maybe their appearance was grandeur enough to make them at least a bit attractive. You? That girl was trying to give him instructions, even if it was in a strange way. And that Matsuda guy asked her questions like he was ignoring her. He just wanted to hear about that girl. He wanted to know about her so much that it was unbearable. He was so fascinated by it. He looked at her body over and over again like he was looking it all up. Then, naturally, it shouldn't be surprising his dangly romper was... What the fuck? Dangly romper? Oh, I gotta use that at some point. Dangly romper? Fuck. Damn. That's a phrase. For fuck's sakes. Matsuda suddenly kicked the bed beside him and had a clanging echo through the lab. Oh my, oh my, oh my, are you mad? The girl continued smiling all the same. But it's me who wants to be angry. Hey, why aren't you looking at the ridiculously adorable face of the one Enoshima Junko like a lust-driven demon? Why is it? Hey, why aren't you horny? Wow, just right, it was just like, why don't you want to fuck me? Come on. As he heard the girl's words, Matsuda remembered something. I knew it, you really are weird. Am I? But you see, this is really weird for me. That's your real personality, isn't it? Wait, quit all those comments about my personality. Enoshima quickly switched to an offended tone of voice. For sure, you're making it sound like up until now I was just feigning innocence, but I've been making sure I keep at least one aspect of me the same. So you'll know it's me for sure no matter how I am. Still, since I bore easily, I pretty much hit the snooze button as soon as you got out from a sloppy personality. Even still that, what's your purpose? Matsuda interrupted Enoshima with a question. His expression changed to a glare. Oh, getting serious. You won't waste your time talking to the ever-famous queen of chatting like we're in a Saiyan battle, right? Just straight up Dragon Ball references. Just answer me. Frustrated, Matsuda raised his voice angrily. What is it you want to achieve? Just what is it you're trying to do? It's interesting to note that even when Matsuda is talking to Junko, he's acting the same way that he acts to Ryuko. He's not acting afraid of Junko like others are. He's acting the same way like he's acting towards Ryuko, someone that he cares about. And he's acting towards Junko the same way. Dismissive. But there... Junko's Enoshima tilted her head slightly to the side. Nothing really. I don't want to do anything. What? It's too late. I shan't do a thing. I'm not going to do a single thing. I have everyone else doing it for me. Guys like the student council, the headmaster, or the steering committee, and also that girl who you absolutely adore. Everyone's running around doing my work. Hearing that, Matsuda's face went dark red. You already know what I'm doing? Whatever are you saying? Enoshima raised her head. Matsuda looked down at her. I've known what you were doing for a very long time now. You've been doing exactly as I intended you to do. So what are you saying? Hey, why don't you tell me? Matsuda clenched his jaw at her words. Seeing that, Enoshima quivered with an ecstatic look stuck to her face. Matsuda-kun's face sure is amazing right now. That despair-induced face you're showing me? I'd like to see it more. Become more and more and more and more despair-induced. Fuck off. Matsuda's face contorted into rage. Watching him, Enoshima snorted and chuckled. She placed her hands behind her back as she casually inspected her surroundings. Moving on, though. Matsuda-kun, what is it you plan to do from now on? What do you mean? He immediately responded. Enoshima suddenly reached out and grabbed Matsuda's wrist. Oh no, your hand is wounded. You weren't scratched, were you? It looks painful. Should I kiss it better? Matsuda quickly tried to pull away his hand, but Enoshima held on tightly. Now, let's see. These scratches were caused by some other guy, weren't they? It looks like he was probably an honor student, but he was terribly ill, and when he made this wound, he was probably bedridden with shock, wasn't he? How do you know that? I don't know. I just understand. Because it was all part of my plan. Enoshima brought her own face close to Matsuda's pale face and grinned crazily. Gotcha, just kidding. Then she released Matsuda's hand and once again observed her surroundings. Still, I'm sure there's a precious existence you want to protect. That's right. This is disturbingly similar to that thing with your mother. You must feel awful sorry. Oh, speaking of your mother, I can't help but feel that Otonashi Ryuko-chan she looks just like her. You know, they have the same kind of atmosphere and stuff. I wonder if they shared some sort of connection or similarity to each other. Or maybe you're the connection. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it's nice that your friend is so forgetful, just like your mother. I gotta say, it seems like guys today are really into MILFs. You really expect to see those MILFs who forget their own miserable backstory. So, okay, Matsuda, that's fair to have Ryuko be like your mom, but come on. Come on. As she turned to Matsuda, Enoshima looked up at him persistently. She happily bounced, walking around him over and over again. That's why you want to protect her well at this time. I get it. You feel sorry for her. Even so, you're troubled. You're incredibly troubled. That's why it seems like after what I've been hearing... Enoshima stood in front of Matsuda. She glared more intensely at him. For real though, what do you plan to do from now on? Matsuda opened his mouth, trying to find words to say, only to close it again. His pale lips trembled a little, but he could only muster a glare directed back at Enoshima. Enoshima looked like she had been expecting his reaction, and she began to walk quietly again. I suppose it can't be helped. Oh dear. I'll just have to think about this one a little harder. However, immediately after she said that, she stopped walking. Don't get me wrong or anything. She yelled as she went bright red with embarrassment. I don't really mind if you don't care about it. Still, it's up to me, even though I am unreliable, and I can't just leave it be. He didn't understand the reasons why. And Ejima changed her personality with no context. Matsuda wasn't able to follow along with conversation's direction at all. She paid no mind to his reaction at all and started to walk around again as if nothing had happened. Well, I did say I'd have to think about this for a bit, but there's really only one way to go about things. Enoshima circled around Matsuda as his eyes followed her, and she continued in a very straightforward tone. It's Kamakura Izuru. No matter what happens, he'll end up with the blame. He ran away, and that's fine since he's the cause of the incident they call the worst and largest in Hope Speaks Academy's history. In that case, it should be easy to fix the issue with the student council president and the issue with the guys from the steering committee. Those guys are just trying to cover it up again anyway. Hearing her words, Matsuda muttered inside his head. I knew it. Still, if that guy said what he thought was true, then that means it just makes less and less sense. Just tell me, what are you trying to achieve? Matsuda asked. You know what? I've told you before, didn't I? I'm not trying to do anything. She screamed in a high-pitched voice, then laughed it off. I'm just leaving this interesting tea party. I've had enough interrupting things. Right now, I'm just existing as a C-list character. I don't do anything else. He didn't know if her words were truly her honest feelings on the matter. No matter how many times she could repeat herself, he probably never would know. Matsuda understood that at least. Well, in the end, it's all up to you. I don't really care what you do with this situation. Yeah, do whatever you like, because I'll accept whatever ending we come to. Enoshima stopped walking. She stood in front of Matsuda and turned to the boy before posing another question. So, what will you do? It is all dependent on whether you go along with it or not, isn't it? Although Matsuda had understood what she was saying, Matsuda had to ask her something. You know where this Kamakura guy's whereabouts are? Nope, not a clue. Enoshima quickly shook her head. Matsuda frowned. But you said Kamakura would get the blame for this and nothing... Just relax about it. It'll all be clear soon enough. She interrupted him in a high-pitched voice. I know where the guys who know where Kamakura are and what they're doing. Soon I'll know where Kamakura is too. The steering committee? Ding dong, correct. Enoshima announced with a cocky attitude. If you heard it from those guys, then Kamakura's whereabouts should be easy enough to work out. But even if they did, that doesn't mean I know where he is, right? Enoshima remains with a cocky attitude, but her voice and deepened. The grammar's getting confusing. That's right. It doesn't mean that. At any moment, the girl's expression slipped and her face deadpanned, like she'd lost interest in everything. But perhaps that is not such a big deal. I mean, if those guys don't say that, then it just means Kamakura's whereabouts remain unknown. Your plan will fail, and I'll be ruined. But that's all that will happen, so you shouldn't pay too much mind to it. As she uttered in a monotone voice, Enoshima turned to the window and walked towards it. Her eyes filled with melancholy as she leaned against the window and stared outside. The laboratory overlooked the East District courtyard and preparatory school's parade. You're talking as if it doesn't matter if I fail. Matsuda raised his voice in a puzzled tone and looked towards Enoshima's back. Because it doesn't matter. The girl continued to stare out the window and laughed absent-mindedly. In private, I would always think something along the lines of how despair-inducingly wonderful it must be to put an end to something as insignificant as small fish. She said things that she never meant to say. Her words were a reflection of her true feelings that lay in her heart. Then that means you really are weird. So soz. You don't like that, do you? Enoshima looked back and had an innocent smile on her face as if he was mistaken. She had the face of a devil in one moment, and the next she smiled like an angel. She hadn't intended to make you the face. That's why he continued to shake as he talked with the girl. He felt more than exhausted. That's right, for that girl's sake, it's not like you can lose. Her pure and innocent smile remaining on her face. Enoshima turned and walked silently to Matsuda. You really are someone who's in true love. You're prepared to fight for your love. I bet when they say love is blind, they were thinking of you. That doesn't mean you do stupid things, actually. I'm grateful. You're destined to spend an eternity with that person. So I thank you from the very bottom of my heart. Enoshima walked up to Matsuda and didn't come to a stop until finally their toes were touching. She whispered gently to him. Do your best, Matsuda-kun, because that's what I expect. Defeat the despair you face and let hope win. Shining victorious, because that's what I expect will happen. As she whispered quietly, Enoshima leaned towards him until their faces almost touched, and then she leaned in more. In the next moment, their lips touched. Matsuda didn't break away. He was puzzled, but he gave up and just accepted it as it was. It was a vicious, long, entwining, violent kiss. After a time that was far too long to be described in a single word, Enoshima finally pulled away. In the moments after the kiss, she backed away from him, and in the dead silence, she walked to the laboratory door. Where are you going? Matsuda asked as he wiped his mouth. In return for the kiss, I thought I'd lend you a bit of a hand, said Enoshima laughing, but she quickly stopped. Wait. You don't need to go out of your way. But his mouth wouldn't move. No, it wasn't just his mouth. His entire body felt numb and was immobile. Looks like you were caught up by such a classic too, Matsuda-kun. Looking at the frozen Matsuda, Enoshima looked like she was a kid who had just gotten a beloved toy. She was smiling, overcome with joy. You know, lipstick is a dangerous thing. My lipstick, for example, has been tainted with poison. Haha, poison! It sounds just like a classic, so nostalgic. But don't worry, it's not life-threatening. Enoshima happily bounced around Matsuda's still form. Knowing her plan worked, she proudly let her joy show. She finally let herself bounce in front of Matsuda. Now then, I should give you one final piece of advice. Enoshima suddenly switched to a serious expression, like a boxer moment before the bell rings. You know, in this scenario, only you can make the choice, Matsuda-kun. So think carefully, worry about it, and choose the choice you think is best. Hope or despair. The choices are so diverse and yet, surprisingly, intricately connected. Anyway, have a good think about it. It's no good. I'm tired now. I wonder if this conversation is just that tedious. Well, whatever. In any case, that's our conversation for now. Goodbye. She brought the one-sided conversation she had started to a one-sided end. Enoshima staggered out of the lab. Wait! Despite yelling it out, no sound escaped Matsuda's mouth. The boy stood, paralyzed, waiting for feeling to return to his body. Okay. We have built to a head. Everything from here leads into Danganronpa 1. That's the way this has to go. And Matsuda has the power to stop it or to make it happen. We know what he chooses. And we know he doesn't want to. Damn. I have a feeling that was the real Junko. Partially because I think that Matsuda may be able to tell. Matsuda may know about Mukuru. And I wonder if even a fake Junko could have that effect on Matsuda. I have a funny feeling that may have been the real Junko. That feels like a conversation that Junko would want to do herself. So everything's building up. Like, it's from here. So that's the thing, it's just... How does this lead to Danganronpa 1 is the curiosity part. Because we know what happens from here. The parade kills themselves, which sets off the tragedy across the world, which causes the class to lock themselves in the school. I don't know if this will go... This will not go to the end, to the beginning of Danganronpa 1. It's not going to go that far, because there's a lot of pages left. There's still literally a third of, like, this entire thing left, because it's over 100 pages left. But I don't think it's going to go as far as that. Will it end with the parade killing themselves? Or will it end with all the pieces in place? Because from this point... Like, at this stage, it's Izuru... Like, what does Izuru do from this point to lead to everything? I don't know. He forms or joins or something the Remnants of Despair at some point. But does that happen during this or later? Like, I'm curious where this is going to end. But it's clear that unless Matsuda does something, every single piece is in place to let everything happen. And we know Matsuda does nothing. Because everything happens. Well, I feel like at this point, it's basically building to a head of... Does Matsuda kill Junko? And does he go through with it? And we know he doesn't. But I feel that's going to be the internal conflict that Matsuda has in the next chapter. Also, I'm feeling like I am infinite. Like, this chapter especially, I mean, the previous chapter as well, but this chapter, I'm definitely feeling like that one guess that I had is super right. I'm still not saying it, but I feel like that one guess I had is super right. Which thematically is like, fuck. So appropriate and fuck. And explain stuff later too. But wow. Okay, so the next episode, if I'm able to record it all at once and I decide to put it all up as one thing, which, because it's all text and reading, it's going to be a lot harder to do the next, like, it might be 3 hours, which I've done plenty of 3 hours, but I've done almost a 7-hour video at this point. None of those were straight talking the entire time because there was a video game playing where this is just straight reading. I'll try and do it all in one video. If I can't, I apologize, but I'll try. The next video will hopefully be the end of Danganronpa 0, which I'm curious, like, we know where this leads. We know what happens next. I'm very curious to find out how it gets there, which is probably the best way that a sequel can, a prequel can do things. It's like, no, you know where this is going, but the getting there part's the fun part, not what happens. It's how does it happen, which is very reminiscent of Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2, where it's just like, we know how that game ends when you start the game, but how does it get there? And that's the fascinating part. So, on the next episode, the end of Danganronpa 0, and a giant fucking video, because it's, let me just double check. It is, so this whole thing is 247 pages. The next thing goes from page 160 to 247. So it's like 87 pages all up, which is still a fuckload. So I guess it's it's not, it's like, no, it's about a third, actually. No, it's about a third. 87 of 247. No, it's over a third. No, it's over a third, its entire thing. Cool. So let me just add up the length of all the videos so far, and it's half of that. Cool. My throat's gonna be dead. I'll fucking die just constantly reading and evoking the emotions of it all. So, until then, this is version 2, signing out.